Welcome to the inaugural edition of For the Love of Sports. I'm Brian Loveless, your sports guy in the Chi. I'm back, Chicagoland Sports Radio. Kicking off the show today, we got some NBA talk from last night's NBA draft. We got some talk about HBO's new sports drama. We got some talk with my Big Ten preview with John Veldehuis about the Wisconsin Badgers. And I also had a fun topic on my Facebook page, For the Love of Sports Show, along on my Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at BLoveless247 as who could create the best quarterback all offensive unit. I'm talking quarterback, running back, offensive lineman, receivers, and a tight end. Let's get this show on the road. NBA draft. Last night you saw the top 3 picks pretty much go as expected, but in different orders. You saw Karl Anthony Towns, to my surprise, get taken by the Timberwolves. You saw D'Angelo Russell from Ohio State get taken by the Los Angeles Lakers. You also saw Jahlil Okafor surprisingly drop to number 3. After the college basketball season, he was favored to go number 1 in the Timberwolves. But I guess things changed. Somebody saw something in Karl Towns that the Timberwolves saw something in Karl Towns that others didn't. So they took him number 1. And that's where the draft just flipped on its side and went crazy from there on out. We saw one of the other surprises of the draft, the New York Knicks take Kristaps Porzingis from Latvia. And to the much chagrin of many New York Knicks fans, they all hung their head. They showed the shot of the little kid crying, like, who is this guy? And then you saw Emmanuel Mudiay from who played over in China, who was supposed to go to SMU last year and play college ball, end up with the Denver Nuggets. And even Ty Lawson said it, the point guard currently for the Denver Nuggets. Looks like I'm going to Sacramento. We don't know if he's going to Sacramento yet, but he surely sounds like he wants out of Denver. I'm going to talk some winners and losers from last night's draft. I got to say my first winner from last night's draft has to be the Charlotte Hornets taking Frank Kaminsky from the University of Wisconsin. He led that team. He's a leader. The kid's gonna come in and contribute right away. Michael Jordan said himself that he would have traded anything to get Frank Kaminsky, and he definitely fills out a big spot for them at the 4 position, which they needed all last year. He's a decent shooter. He has a lot of heart. He plays hard, and I feel like this is the number one. This is the number 1 win in the first round of this draft. And a lot of people. My next winner is the Miami Heat getting Justice Winslow, a projected top 5 pick, and getting him at 10. And I mean, it's an amazing pickup for them in putting some youth into that lineup, a lineup that has run out of gas last year due to age. And Justice Winslow is a heck of a player out of Kentucky, and he's going to bring a lot to the table for that Heat team. No matter where he comes in, off the bench, or if he's coming in as a starter role as a rookie. My third and final winner would have to be the Denver Nuggets taking Emmanuel Mudiay. He was projected to go number 4 in this draft, and he ends up with the Denver Nuggets. They get a young player, and sounds like it's the end for Ty Lawson in Denver, as they look to ship him out of town. So those are my winners. I also got to talk about, since this is Chicago, I definitely have to talk about the Chicago Bulls getting what I call a steal at 22nd, picking up Arkansas and SEC Player of the Year Bobby Portis. He's going to be he's going to be a good player, and some youth put into that front court in Chicago. And I just wish him the best. It is definitely a win for the Chicago Bulls in this draft, and helping Fred Hoiberg and his staff make it a lot easier on them with these hardcore fans of Chicago. This is For the Love of Sports on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. We're currently talking draft winners and losers and potential busts. I'm going to move on to my losers side of the bracket. Of course, a team that's seemingly on top of this losers list year after year as they pick in the first round. Definitely the New York Knicks drafting Kristaps Porzingis. And, I mean, the guy, he's a European guy, international. And a lot of these international guys, you don't really see much tape on them. So you don't know if it's a winner or loser. You're hitting a coin flip, 50-50 chance this guy's either good or he's going to be really bad. But I call this a loss because, I mean, there's so much other talent on the board. And the Knicks need a little bit of everything. And guard was one of the places I expected them to go high at in this draft. And getting Jerry Grant helped a lot, but then you lose a good scorer in Tim Hardaway Jr., sending him to the Hawks. But you do pick up Jerry Grant, so you do get a young point guard. You do get a young but unproven forward from Latvia. But altogether, I say this is a loss. My second biggest loser. Possibly the Sacramento Kings. This is a possible. This has an asterisk by it. You draft Willie Cauley-Stein, one of the great stories of Chicago college basketball last season with Kentucky, and him going to Sacramento draws a big question mark for the future of this franchise. Are they going to get rid of Boogie Cousins? Are they going to get rid of DeMarcus Cousins? You seemingly try to draft his successor, but Sacramento hasn't made a definite move on what direction they're going to go in. Was this a draft pick from the owner? Was this a draft pick from George Karl and his guys? We'll see in the coming weeks. With free agency looming, trades are going to get talked about a lot. And Boogie Cousins look like he's the hot name out there. But drafting Willie Cauley-Stein at this point in the draft was a reach. I mean, he's a defensive guy, but at times could be a liability on offensive end, and that is definitely a reach. I definitely saw him going a little bit later. My third and final loser of this draft, and a lot of people are going to raise their eyes at me, are the Philadelphia 76ers. Yes, they drafted probably the best player in this draft with Jahlil Okafor out of Duke, and he's going to bring a lot to the table for this team. But you also have a lot of question marks. You got two big men on the roster with former injury problems, Nerlens Noel, and then you have Joel Embiid, who you drafted off potential last year in the first place with the third pick, and he has not showed up for you. You also traded for you also got Dario Saric, who hasn't seen the NBA yet. I mean, you're gonna run a big guy at point. I mean, point guard was the dying need for the Philadelphia 76ers, and they did not address it in this draft. Picking Jahlil Okafor wasn't a need, but they did grab the best player available on the board, so I can see where that went. But it's just like, okay, they took the best player, but then they had a heap load of second-round draft picks, and the best they got out of that was J.P. Takota from North Carolina, who was okay. He was serviceable. He was a good player, but you still didn't draft a guard. The Philadelphia 76ers definitely lose here, but Jahlil Okafor is a win. Really quick, my potential draft busts have to be Karl Anthony Towns at the number one pick. Every number one pick every year in, year out, has the potential to be a bust because you take him number one overall with a lot of expectations. My second one would have to be D'Angelo Russell going to the Los Angeles Lakers. Everyone knows that the Los Angeles Lakers is a place where those banners put so much pressure on these guys, and it's like, okay, he's got to come here and contribute. People are trying to don him the next Kobe or the successor to Kobe, but it's only for us to see. Really quick, I'm going to talk my second round steal of the draft. Montrezl Harrell from University of Louisville going to the Houston Rockets. And that's definitely a good pickup for those guys who also had a great draft in drafting Sam Decker out of University of Wisconsin. This has been For the Love of Sports on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. Up next, we're talking HBO sports drama with a friend of mine, Brandon Davenport from One Take Podcast Nation. This has been For the Love of Sports on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. This is For the Love of Sports. I'm Brian Loveless, and welcome back. If you ain't been listening, you've been under a rock. Last segment, we talked NBA draft winners, sleepers, losers, and busts. So right now, I'm going to get into a little segment discussing HBO's new sports drama, Ballers, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as a former NFL player turned financial advisor. And on the line, I got a friend of mine, Brandon Davenport from One Take Podcast Nation. B, how you doing, man?
What's up, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. As we all know, you put me on to the show Ballers, and you said it reminded you of a show of the past that was run. Tell the folks a little bit something about that.
All right. The first thing, if you're a sports guy like me, you try to do anything sports. If it has as my cousin said, if it has a referee or umpire, I pay attention. So apparently, when I first seen this, of course, when I seen this preview, first thing I thought of was Playmakers, which was the ESPN show that ran from 2005, and that was it. The show had a lot of controversy, so ESPN had got into a little trouble with NFL threatening to pull the plug on their deal with ESPN. And I'm like, the show at this particular time was a pretty good show. So I was I was interested in Ballers when I seen the level of stuff they would talk about and do in this particular show, because I remember the whole Playmaker debacle, which Playmaker to this day is still ESPN's third highest rated show of all times.
Oh, that's wild, considering ESPN and all the specific programming it had on in the early 2000s.
Yeah, so I was interested in watching Ballers. When we first started, before the episode premiered, we was talking about it, and then when it did premiere, I even caught you by surprise, because I thought the same thing about the show. I was thinking it's going to be like a football-related show, but not with real players.
Right.
A real team. But in the opening credits, I see him with what looked like a Miami Dolphin color, like tackling the Buffalo Bill. But as I watched the show, like, they actually have NFL teams and players on this show.
Right. Ballers has officially, to this day, has not been cleared for the use of the NFL license. We know that HBO cleared them for up to 8 episodes, I guess, as a test for the HBO market. Logos showed up such as the Dolphins, Bills, and Packers in episode number 1. You also got former players and legends showing up, such as Deshaun Jackson, Antonio Bryant, and Steven Jackson, along with Dolphins legends Don Shula and Larry Zonka.
Yeah, and that was shocking too. And then, so for those who haven't watched, at this point I'm looking at, okay, how reckless can they get? Because we know NFL, especially coming off of last year, we know they scared of hot button issues right now, especially coming off of the whole Michael Sam, the Adrian Peterson, the Ray Rice, 3 issues last year that was really rough for the NFL to handle. Like last year, maybe the NFL worst year ever in media eyes, and then to finish the season off with the Deflategate with Tom Brady. So I was curious to see what the show would actually bring. And the opening credits, sorry, I'm not a person to believe in spoiler alert, because if you haven't seen it by now, it's on the second episode, that's your fault. In the opening credits, it's an individual who's out with his mistress in the ride, and they get into an altercation where he crashes his car and he passes away. So right then and there, that had me hooked. Especially the part when he said to the young lady, she said to the young man, like, you do anything for me? He was like,